Welcome to the Postpartum Performance Podcast. If you're here to be empowered and encouraged, you're in the right place. I believe every woman deserves to learn who's in her corner, which is why this podcast was created, to share encouragement and intentional conversations around women's health, nutrition, and wellness for new mothers. In each episode, we will discuss ways for women to find truth for her health, to feel strong, and to be confident from the inside out. I'm your host, Dr. Lindsay Pachkowski, a performance physical therapist with a passion for teaching others about pelvic health and guiding mothers to build movement, confidence, and strength. I'm a lover of running and weightlifting and a healthy cooking enthusiast. All right, ladies, grab your coffee and settle in for an episode of the Postpartum Performance Podcast. Are you with me? Here we go. All right, Morgan, welcome to the Postpartum Performance Podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a bit. Glad to finally have you on.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to be here.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to start with first just kind of introducing yourself a little bit more, telling the listeners kind of who you are, what you do, and what stuff you're really into right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the co-founder and president of Primal Kitchen Foods. So I'm not sure if the audience knows Primal Kitchen. Hopefully they do. But we make condiments, salad dressings, barbecue sauce, steak sauce. Almost everything everything's dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free. We try to do everything as most unsweetened as possible. So I've been working with Mark Sisson. Some of your readers may know who he is. He's considered kind of one of the founders of the paleo movement. We joined forces in the end of 2013 and brought this brand to life in 2015. And then I've got two little guys at home. So I have a 1-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
So fun.
I do a lot of momming these days. And then, we just moved from Southern California to Florida. So a lot of move stuff going on in my life. Picking out new wood floors and paint colors. That's been hot on my radar these days, aside from work.
Perfect. So when Morgan and I got connected, when you guys were out here in Southern California, kind of through a mutual friend of my husband and family friend type of thing, but we connected quickly on the health side of things, of just having conversations about better food quality. And with her connections with Primal Kitchen, we just love the fact that there is companies out there that are really changing the game in bringing products to a lot more people that are better for you and better for your family. But Morgan, how did you even get started on kind of this health journey for you? What did your health kind of journey turn into, and career path wise lead you into Primal Kitchen?
Yeah, good question. It's a very very integrated, messy path. So I graduated with an accounting degree from the University of Colorado. I grew up in the Midwest. So it was my mom, we sat down as a family every night and had dinner, which was great. But, it was a lot of bagel bites after school, or she'd be like, you have to eat breakfast, have a s'mores Pop-Tart, just anything, but get out the door. So, there were some good, wholesome, nutrition philosophies, but mostly it was a standard Midwest, 80s. I was born in the 80s, upbringing. And I always suffered from constipation and other things that I thought were just who I was, genetics, whatever. But after college, I took a job as an accountant, got super bored, convinced our now VP of marketing, Anna Getch, at Primal Kitchen. Her and I have known each other since we were little babies, and we moved to South America together. So we quit our jobs. Well, I quit mine. She was a year behind me in school, moved to South America. My 6-month trip ended up it was a 3-year trip. So I learned how to surf. And that kind of dictated where we went. And then, so I was all over, from the southern tip of Argentina, lived in Mexico, lived in Costa Rica, spent a lot of time in Ecuador, and bussed through Colombia, the whole thing. So I did that for a while. So it was 2.5 years. Came home, I got my yoga teaching certification in Hawaii. And when I was in South America, I'd met this girl from California who was doing this Standard Process cleanse. And Standard Process is a supplement company. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They grow all their own herbs and stuff. They're out of Wisconsin. And she had a friend who had cancer, and the doctor recommended she do this cleanse. I'm not a big cleanse person, but with the cleanse came this little packet, and it was don't eat gluten, dairy, soy, and animal products, whatever, for 30 days while you do the cleanse. So I did it, and I was oh, wow, no processed food. That was probably the biggest thing. So I was mostly eating fruits and vegetables for 30 days, which was, pretty extreme, but I just noticed like, oh, wow, I'm feeling a lot better. Like I had allergies. I was on like Allegra D growing up, just like always had kind of like itchy eyes and all these like little annoying things that I thought were just like, part of
that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
what it is,
That's just
right?
who you are.
They all went away. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll carry on. So I carried on. I reincorporated fish. I, loosened up a bit, but I've been grain-free for, I don't know, grain-free, carb conscious, I would say. And then I've since reincorporated a lot more animal products. Obviously, like working with Mark had an influence on that. From there on out. So after that trip, I went to work at an advertising agency in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as one does after they lived in South America for 3 years.
I love Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee is great. And then I was working on the Frito-Lay account for this agency. So I managed the Frito-Lay account for like 2.5 years. And they were like super nice people, but I was like, oh God, like I'm not really like passionate about chips. I mean, we worked on like Stacy's Pita Chips and the organic Tostitos line, but it was still not really like in line with the passion. So I ended up moving out to California, ran marketing for a company called Kavita. They make a sparkling probiotic drink. And then there I knew who Mark was because I had been kind of diving into like everything. I did like keto hardcore, 5 years ago, 20 total carbohydrates, not net carbohydrates, like 20
That's
total
hardcore.
carbohydrates. Yeah, I did everything. I was like, on that cleanse, like fruit and vegetable only diet for a few months. And then I went like paleo. I was just very curious about experimenting with all these different things. I knew who Mark was. I wanted to meet him. We sponsored an event of his, PrimalCon, that he used to have in Oxnard, California. And then we hit it off. I ended up giving he and his wife a ride home to their hotel room.
Oh my gosh.
Carrie and Mark, at the end of the night. And then I quit Kavita. Adam and I were on a surf trip. We rented a van and drove from San Francisco to San Diego and surfed like all down the coast. And then Mark called, actually, ironically, while I was on that trip. And this was right at the end of my time at Kavita. So it was like very weird timing. But 3 months later, he called and was like, hey, we met a few months ago. I want to launch this food company. I don't really know anyone who knows anything about the food space. Can you help? And so, we had a meeting and it was a very like Mark lives in Malibu. He's like very entrepreneurial, California. I like went and met Mark at his house overlooking the ocean. He's like,
cool.
I think I want to launch this food company. Here's the basic premise. And he was like going to call the brand Primal Blueprint. And I was like, I think you should call it Primal Kitchen or something else. And he was like, oh, okay. This meeting was worthwhile. And I was like, yeah. Meeting was worthwhile before I said that. No, Mark's like the best ever. We had a great relationship. So then Mark and I have been working together for the last, it's been like almost, 7 years now. So we launched in 2015. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I love how so many parts of your story are just like you were saying, it's kind of like wandering around a little bit, but it really brought you back to a passion and aligning that with your work too, which that makes such a big difference on whatever your work is, whether that's for a company or if it's as a stay-at-home mom or whatever it is, like aligning that with your passions and what you're doing is so, so cool. So for you now as a mother of two, how has that looked from your upbringing of like the different food things and your transition and experience with so many different eating styles and just different ways to prepare food and have food? How have you and Adam kind of navigated that? I know your boys are younger still, but how are you kind of like navigating that as they're getting older and trying some new foods? What are you guys trying to implement as parents?
Yeah, well, I would say for me, I think like the biggest thing that I netted away from all this nutrition stuff, like kids or adults, is just like, you can't go wrong incorporating more vegetables. So like meat or no meat, fish or no fish, as long as you're like eliminating the processed food and the sugar, like I just think it's for me healthier mentally to focus on like what I should be eating more of instead of like living in this like very common female mindset of like restriction, which clearly in the past, right? I never to like a eating disorder phase, but I mean, it's easy to go down like a kind of an obsessive compulsive mindset. I think of like, no, I'm not eating sugar. I don't eat gluten. I'm, whatever.
I can't have this. Yeah.
Yeah. You end up like, it's like a little obsessive. I don't think it's like the healthiest mindset. So, I don't know if you did it with me when I was in San Diego, but I started doing this challenge with my
veg up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we just did this challenge where you can eat whatever you want, like ding dongs, ho-hos, TCBY for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as long as you eat 5 servings of vegetables a day. And just shifting that mindset, like puts you in such a like healthier place with food. So I would say with the boys, I did do stuff like, Riker's first food was like baby liver pate and stuff. There's just so many nutrients in liver, and they're not eating a lot when they're that little. So I thought it was cool to introduce like some stuff like that. Yeah. Our pediatrician is big on like like fish only like once every 2 weeks for kids because of maybe like the toxic load. But we did do like quite a bit of like salmon, sweet potatoes. So we just try to keep it, wholesome. But then also I think you got to like realize that like you can't control every single thing they eat. So, minimal sugar, and then just as many different variety foods as possible. We've definitely fallen into the rut with the toddler. Like they'll eat anything until they're like, 18 months. And then they start to have like an opinion and they hit the fever. And then it gets a little harder, but he went through like he calls them Dias, but a big quesadilla phase. So tortillas with like raw cheddar cheese that you can get at Sprouts if you live on the West Coast. That's like a big thing for us. And then sneak in some like veggies or whatever in there. Smoothies with spinach. And we actually started putting spinach in Riker's scrambled eggs. Like he like never had scrambled eggs without spinach. So now he like loves spinach. Like you can give it a whole sauteed like bowl of spinach and he'll eat the entire thing. So I don't know. I think like, introducing them over and over again to the same food, even if they don't eat it, is cool. Like they say, just put the like experts of these like, feeding sites. It's like a big thing to put like one thing on their plate, they like. So maybe like roasted sweet potatoes, and then you can put whatever else on there. And if they want more sweet potatoes, fine, but at least they're just getting the introduction to some of the other foods. So we've gone with that.
That's so good.
Yeah. I was also mom last night at the ice cream store, like, can you give him a tiny scoop and 2 cups? And then I'm like, he goes in the other room and I'm like dividing it into 4. I leave it like 1 spoonful and, I eat the rest. So
there's a balance. Yeah. Gotta figure it out. I love that. For tips that you would give to someone. So coming from your journey with kind of changing and different health things, what would you have for maybe like 3 to 5 tips on either certain products that you would recommend or strategies? So you said like eating more vegetables, I'd say that would be a big one, but anything else for someone that's like starting out of like, I don't even know where to begin on eating better personally, or for helping their kids eating healthier, even though sometimes the convenient foods aren't always the best. I feel like it's getting better with the convenient foods
options nowadays.
Yeah.
There really are a lot of options. So I think getting creative, like Thrive Market has tons of stuff that's like better, they have really good prices on everything. And it's delivered direct to your door. They have really great prices on all our products, but definitely incorporating as many vegetables as possible. And then like, I'm a big smoothie fan. If you just like don't like starting your day off right, I think is important. I said, I like read all these books on like health and nutrition, right? I like kept reading like keto and fasting and blah, 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 blah. But the first book I read was Michael Pollan's Omnivore's Dilemma, which the subtitle is Eat Food, Not Too Much, Mostly Plants. And I like looked back like 6 years later and I was like, man, really could have just stopped at that one. Like,
yeah, you're like, that's a good one. Yeah.
Can I have those 60 hours of my life back? And it's really like that simple. So I think don't overcomplicate it and don't like make it stressful or too like little steps. Otherwise it just becomes overwhelming. Yeah.
Absolutely. So something I do like to ask all of the guests on the show is something that I wish I would have known sooner, whether that's a topic related to food and nutrition or to motherhood for you. What's either a topic or like a tip that you would want to share with the listeners?
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess I wish I would have known sooner. Let's see. For motherhood, that's like pretty easy. With my first, I was very like, kind of stressed about the timing of everything. Like he has to go down for a nap. We did like wake windows, taking care of babies, right? Like we at this age, it's like he's awake for 3 hours, then you got to put him down. And I would like get anxious if like he wasn't tired yet. I'd be like, but he's been awake for 3 hours. And I was like, oh, we're stressing about everything. And I think I ended up trying to put down a baby all the time that wasn't like totally tired yet. And it's much easier to put a baby down for bed when they're really tired. So I think I would have like chilled out and like trusted my intuition more on that. Also, like our second is in our bed like for most of the night, every night. And there was like so much guilt I had around that. Like, but I'm like totally down with the co-sleeping. So for anyone out there who needs to hear like, hey, it's okay if your baby sleep with you, like this is actually how kids have slept probably, for eternity. And it's very common all around the world. I think as long as you're doing it in a safe way, I know this is like a very controversial topic, but I think just like letting go of some of the mom guilt earlier, it's easier to do when you have two because you don't have the time to like worry so much. But I think that would be what I would just let go of earlier.
That's good. That's really good. Anything that you did to help let go of those things, that mom guilt? Or what worked for you?
I'm still like working on it. I was like in therapy last week and she's like, God, this guilt. I'm like, I know. It's like being a working mom is no joke. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I think there's just a lot of guilt with the whole working mom thing. I'm still working on that. I think therapy is really helpful for just like recognizing it. Cause these emotions, if we're not like good at expressing them, come out in all different ways. Right. And like, we can tend to like irritability or anger, sometimes like an easier place to go versus like, oh, I'm just really overwhelmed right now. Or, oh, I'm just really guilty. So I think therapy is great.
Yeah.
But then finding like, there are a lot of resources out there, like-minded people. So, I'm definitely like not I've got like a lot of friends who are like, put my baby in bed at 7, they sleep till 7 a.m. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong over here? But it's just like not us, we're flexible. So yeah. We've also moved every like month for the last year. So
the consistent schedule is not really a thing.
No. Right now we're sleeping in our guest house in our new house in Florida. And like, we are all in one bedroom. So like Brecken sleeps in a crib in the closet and then Riker falls asleep in bed with us. And then at some point Brecken wakes up and Adam grabs him and they like finish the night on a twin mattress that's on the floor. So we are like, we're like basically glamping in our home for a few more weeks until we move into our house. So flexibility. It's all about flexibility, man.
Yeah. Good family bonding too.
Totally.
You're going to miss this once you guys get into the new place and have so much more space. You're like, wait, I was getting used to that.
I know. Yeah. I think don't stress about the things that like, I think you look back in 20 years and you're not going to be like, I wish, like, I remember one friend of our family was like, pull them into bed and cuddle them because it goes by so fast. It's like, no one tells you that. Like, no one tells you like cuddle them more, like as parents, it's all like, when are you sleep training and 12 hours a night by 4 weeks old. And like, how are they like, we're trying to make these kids so independent. Sorry. This is not like, I don't know.
Go for it.
Go down this like parenting path, but I feel like there's a big push for like growing up faster and like forced independence. And I just think like, it's such a precious time to be 1 year old. And like, I don't want to sleep alone, like without my husband in bed right now. Like, I wouldn't want to sleep in a dark room by myself if I was 2. Like, I get it, man. I'm like, come on in, he's not going to be in here for very many more years. So I think I've tried to let go of the guilt on things that I'm like, I will not in 20 years, like regret that I cuddled with my kids more than like is, acceptable in the culture of the United States right now.
Yeah. Do those things though. Cause I think, like what you were saying though, it's enjoying the little moments rather than trying to like micromanage so many of the other things going on and trying to control like their upbringing of like who they are, what they want to do, and loving them through those things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So another question I wanted to ask, so like talking about health, fitness, all those different things. And you had mentioned before we hit record, that you were playing tennis, but what like exercise or movement or what type of things are bringing you joy right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I, after Riker was born, I like some people, they say like, lose the baby weight really easily with nursing. I wasn't really one of those. Like I kind of hung on. Both times I've like hung on to it until I'm done nursing. I'm still nursing our second. So for me, but I like stopped nursing and started playing tennis. And like I was dropping weight that I haven't been able to like move my weight in like, I don't know, since I turned 37 years ago. Like no matter what I did, I just kind of stayed the same. And incorporating like cardio and then like I think the hormonal change of like dropping nursing, which is, by the way, the biggest hormonal change that will happen after you have a baby. It's like not the postpartum. It's not the pregnancy. When you stop nursing, if you nurse, it is the gnarliest hormonal shift. Like no one talks about it. People be like, what is going on? I'm like losing my mind. And I'm like, oh, well, didn't you quit? My best friend in LA, Natalia, I'm like, didn't you quit nursing? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's a big deal. And she's like,
really good.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that I just started losing weight really fast. But yes, we've been surfing a little bit here in Florida. So I'm super excited to be surfing in like a bikini in warm weather. And then
warm water.
Yeah, warm water. Tennis. I'm like loving tennis. So that's why my hair is wet. I played tennis before this and ran and jumped in the ocean and then ran home in my sports bra, my wet tennis skirt. So, but yeah, I think the cardio you can do that's like not like, I have to go. I'm not a cardio person. I like much prefer to lift weights, but now I started playing tennis. I don't really want to do anything else. It's like, I need the chasing the ball motivation to keep me moving. So
yeah, it's a good, you can play for an hour, 2 hours or however long that you have time for. And you still get the heart rate up and it's enjoyable. Absolutely. Yeah. We've been getting really into pickleball. We've been playing that. So fun.
Adam, my husband played last night for like 2 hours. He like loves pickleball. It's fastest growing racket sport in America.
Dave loves it. Dave loves it. We played it this weekend.
Yeah, it's super
such a good
fun.
one.
Yeah.
It's a similar one, but I feel like less running than tennis just because it's a smaller court and the ball and everything.
I agree, but you get moving in pickleball. Like if you play with some competitive folks, I mean, it's no joke, especially here. It's 95 degrees like every day in Florida right now. So
dripping sweat before you start.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Very, very fun. All the racket sports. I love it. So I wanted to ask, because Primal Kitchen has a ton of different products. What is your personal favorite?
Oh, this like fluctuates by the week. Yeah. So
depending on what's in the fridge.
Right now, our buffalo sauce is my favorite.
Yes, we have that.
It's like it has butter in it or some like weird, like natural butter flavor or something. So we replace that with cashew butter. So it's dairy free. There's no sugar added. And the sauce is just like so good. So it's like really easy to make, just like buffalo chicken salad for dinner or buffalo barbecue pizza. Like it's just very versatile. So we're loving the buffalo sauce. We're like putting it on everything. And then I use our vanilla collagen fuel every day in my matcha. So I just do one scoop. I use it instead of creamer, or it's like my dairy-free creamer alternative, but that's amazing. It makes like coffee taste like a latte at home. And then our vodka sauce is the same concept as it has cashew butter in it to replace like the cream that would otherwise be in a vodka sauce. And that like Riker like was dipping a baked oatmeal in it at dinner the other night. I'm like, have at it, buddy. But it's really good. We have frozen meals now too. So
cool. I didn't know that.
Bowl, the chicken pesto bowl is like my pesto, dairy-free pesto recipe. And that one's really good if you need just like a quick thing. I would say those are my like top favorites. We have some specialty mayonnaise flavors coming out. Cool. They might be like limited time, but one is like this cranberry mayonnaise. That's so good. So I'm super excited for that to come out. I'm doing all Primal Kitchen was acquired by Kraft Heinz 2 years ago, but they kept the whole team on. I still have my same role. I just now report to Kraft Heinz. So anyway, I'm still doing all the innovation like I was before we were acquired. So a lot of product testing going on over here, but super fun. But the buffalo sauce is like our best product launch we've had since we launched the mayonnaise. Like it's crazy. This stuff is like, it's like crack and everyone's loving it.
Yeah, Dave loves it.
Yeah, I was like, why are people so obsessed with this? I was talking to Anna, actually, our marketing head at she's like, Dan puts it on. He goes through like a bottle like every few days. And I'm like, well, what is he putting it on? She's like, everything. And then I started putting on everything and I was like, oh yeah, I get it. But yeah, it's nice. I think just back to the nutrition thing really quick. The premise of Primal Kitchen is like, I think this is a big thing, like that's caught on like in an underground movement, but maybe not as much as it should have. Just like, the comparison, I remember, I don't know if you know this company, Jackson's Honest. They make like sweet potato chips. They fry in coconut oil. But I remember talking to their founder, and he told me once at like a Whole Foods in Boulder, Colorado in 2015, that canola oil is the high fructose corn syrup of fat. And I think that's so true. Like it's in everything. And it's nasty. Like we should not be eating canola oil at all. I mean, it comes from a plant called the rapeseed. No one talks about it. It's like a highly processed, industrial seed oil that's just very inflammatory and not good for us. So we've obviously don't use any soybean or canola oil in anything we make. And we've replaced that with avocado oil, which I just think is avocado oil. We use olive oil too. I think that's just like a quick and easy, like health upgrade, like get the canola vegetable oil out of your pantry and cook with butter and avocado oil and olive oil. This is like
Yeah, that's so good. And we have a mutual friend, Julia, that started Trash Panda, the Trash Panda app, which that is a fabulous way that if you're looking for not sure on some of the ingredients, because there's so many, it's not always straightforward on what actually an ingredient is. It might have a fancy little name or a scientific name that if you're not sure what that actually means, their app will help kind of tell you what harmful ingredients or potentially harmful things and better options. So if that's another place to start too, if like reading the actual ingredients, it's not always about the like nutrition breakdown. Look lower to where the ingredient side is, because that's really super important, that you could have something that nutritionally breaks down good, but whatever the actual ingredients are, it's not going to be maybe ideal on that too. Because I think there's kind of people think that, oh, well, at least like there's not a lot of fat or there's not a lot of added sugar, but then you see that there's a bunch of other weird chemicals or other oils in it too. So that's another place to start.
For sure.
Love it. All right. So last question, Morgan. I've been enjoying our conversation so much. So final question that I like to ask is, what advice would you give to a new mom struggling to trying to like find her new routine as a mother?
Oh, just don't, girlfriend. Just don't find that routine. Just survive. Like, I don't know if you read Glennon Doyle's book Untamed at all this year, like every other.
I should.
Oh, you got to read it. But I remember someone asked her once, like, what do I do with like toddlers at home? And she's like, nothing. Like, you just got to get through the day. Like, I think ask for help and just survive and like be really kind to yourself, because there's a lot going on. And breastfeeding will be like the hardest challenge ever. So get like a good lactation consultant, but don't get too many lactation consultants, because then you'll have like 50 different opinions and then it's a whole nother ball game. So just survive. It goes by fast. Wait a week. I always say, wait a week, it'll change. Like any issue you're having with a newborn, like most of them, like, oh, they're gassy. Like the next week it's gone, or they're colicky. The next week it's gone. It changes quick.
That's really good advice. Just survive. Love it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Morgan, I appreciate you spending the time this morning to chat and just to kind of share a little bit more about Primal Kitchen and what you're up to and your insight on kind of health and nutrition. So thank you so much for your time this morning. It was so fun connecting.
Yeah, thank you. Good to chat again.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Postpartum Performance Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to listen, learn, and grow. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for being here. The aim of this podcast is to provide oodles of the best possible content to help empower women, eliminate the phrase, I wish I would have known sooner around pelvic health, and to encourage personal growth through the postpartum journey to becoming the best version of yourself. If you enjoyed the show and found the content helpful, please remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review. These subscriptions and reviews help other mothers discover the podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you. I encourage you to tell a friend about us or post on social media sharing your favorite part for today's show. If you're looking for more content like this, please follow me on Instagram at Postpartum Performance. Remember, mothers, if you're seeking to live life strong, I'm here with you in your corner. Continue to be brave, stay strong, and live confidently.